All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the April 18th weekly webinar. Uh, I'm your host, Kelly G. And in fact, today I am doing double duty. I am going to be your host and your presenter for the day. If you were expecting to be hearing about the MAP study, the Metformin and Alzheimer's disease prevention study, unfortunately, our scheduled speaker had to postpone for today. So I'm sorry about that. It was fairly short notice, but we will get her back on the calendar as soon as possible. So you get to hear from me today, have to, whichever. And I am going to tell you about the topic here in just a moment. Before I do that, however, I will remind everyone we are recording. So this video will be available after today if you'd like to see it again or share it with someone else. Please keep yourselves on mute. That's not as important this time since I'm the speaker, although we don't want any background noise to interrupt. So if you can stay on mute, that's helpful. And you can feel free to use the chat to ask any questions or make comments. And of course, we'll have time for questions and answers throughout the program today. I think I'm the only KU staff person on today. Maybe somebody else there will join and can help me watch the chat. But otherwise, I'll just remind you I'm doing double duty. I'm your host, and like on Saturday Night Live, I'm also your musical guest. But you're lucky that I will not be doing any music today. I'll just be talking. But anyway, I will do my best to bring you some good information and to respond to whatever questions you have. And one other thing, if you need closed captioning, feel free to use the closed caption button at the bottom of your screen. With that being said, lots of familiar names on today. So if you've been here before, you've seen me. Anybody that's new or just for a refresher, I am the Community Engagement Coordinator at the KU Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, which means lots of fun things, including that I get to host the weekly webinar every week. And hosting means I get to talk and introduce the experts that we get. It also means I get to put on my creativity and my thinking cap and find the hosts and the speakers and the topics. It additionally means that when they say, oh no, something has come up and I can't be here, I have to say, oh, that's fine, no problem, and then figure out what to do. So lots of duties there. That being said, I'll put a plug in for if there is a topic you are interested in that you'd like to know more about, please always feel free to email me at myalliance@kumc.edu and let me know your topic. If you know a speaker specifically, feel free to give them my information or give me theirs or both. And I'm very happy to reach out and say, hey, would you want to come and be on the weekly webinar? So that being said, I'll tell you that our topic today, instead of the MAP study, which again, we will bring back another time, we are going to talk about an event that's coming up next Friday, April 26th, and it is called the Dementia Training Room. And we've had some information about the training room in your My Alliance newsletters for the last couple of weeks, and it'll be there again on Monday, the 22nd issue. The Dementia Training Room is something that has been around for a few years, and I've participated in it for several years, and I think it's such a fun and informative and both low-key and really helpful way to share information. And the way I usually start off explaining it is by telling you that the Dementia Training Room is kind of like speed dating for Alzheimer's caregivers. Now, some of you are thinking, what? I'm not looking for a date. I don't mean that kind of dating. And if you are looking for a date, I'm sorry, I don't mean that kind of dating, but we can talk about that some other time. What I mean is the way it's set up is that we have about 18 to 20 different stations at our location. And each station represents a different topic that has to do with caregiving and dementia. So things like bathing, wandering, driving, challenging behavior and communication, long-term care placement, city and community resources, anything that a caregiver might have asked about at some point, there's a station for that. And you go to whichever table you want, and you sit there for about 15 minutes. And an expert at that table tells you, I would say everything you need to know, but you all know you can't hear everything you need to know in 15 minutes. So that person tells you as much as they can in about 15 minutes. Some of us who are big talkers sometimes go over our time limit, and then we just sort of stealthily reset the clock. We try to respect everybody's time. At the end, and we do have timers that buzz that tell you you need to stop talking, and sometimes I even pay attention to that. Anyway, 15 minutes. We talk about whatever the topic is. Most, if not all, of the tables will have printouts that you can take with you, and they're usually printouts of like our PowerPoint slides. So you'll have some information to take with you. When the bell rings and it's time to move on, the truth is you don't have to move on. You can stay at the table and listen to the topic again. You can ask questions, you can do whatever it is you like, but you also have the opportunity to visit another station. The event goes from 9 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon, which we know is enough time to visit all 20 or so stations. If the thought of staying there and doing that all day does not appeal to you, know that you can come for just part of the day. You can come for one station and be done with it. You can come for 2 or 3. You can stay all day. We'll have, I think we'll have some refreshments, and we'll have lots of people in the room. I mean, this is a gathering of some really smart folks, and you're the smartest if you decide to join us. It is completely free. If you can get there, you're welcome to come. We have a registration page set up that is in your My Alliance newsletter. If you don't find yourself registered, but you still want to show up, that's fine. You don't have to register in advance. You can decide in the moment, I think I will try that out. So we try to make it as stress-free as possible. Again, it's open to anyone who can get there. If you are a person who cares for someone who lives in a Missouri county, Clay, Cass, Platte, Ray, and Jackson. How could I forget Jackson? Those 5 counties, we do need to collect some information from you because our funding partner, the Mid-America Regional Council, needs to know some demographics and stuff so that we can justify continuing to do this every year. If you are coming from literally any place else, you can be as anonymous as you like. And we don't sell your data or do anything nefarious with it. We just need it to, let the folks with money know that this is meaningful. So this is an event, like I said, has been going on for several years. It was first dreamed up by Michelle Needon. Some of you know her from the Cognitive Care Network. She is an amazingly creative person. She probably wouldn't want me to tell this, but she's not here, so I can. She won an award last night from a program called City Year AmeriCorps, which is a group of young folks, ages 18 to 20, who are just making Kansas City and the world a better place. And every year they do, I just realized this isn't recorded, so she might find out I'm saying this. That's okay. Every year they pick a group of people that they call idealists who are doing wonderful things and who are making Kansas City better. And Michelle was one of the honorees last night. And I'm telling you that because I'm so proud of her and because she is the one who dreamed up this dementia training room. And I'm also telling you that as we were sitting at the table last night saying, Michelle, you're so wonderful. You have all these great ideas. She says, Kelly, I have one for you. I have a new idea and I want you to help me work on it. So in the moment, sit back, relax, and receive your award. She's saying, I got something else to do, which is the true sign of an idealist and an innovator. So stay tuned because I think her idea is really great. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but it's something new coming soon that will benefit all of you. So anyway, I started to say that because the Dementia Training Room is Michelle's idea. It's been going on for several years. We really have the capacity to do it about once a year. We wish wholeheartedly that we could do it more often than that. We wish we could do it in every part of town, but we don't quite have the superpower of doing that yet. So I'm telling you that because if you think that sounds interesting, you should come next week because your next chance won't be until next year. Not to put any pressure on you or anything. I'm going to put up a slide in a moment with the information on it. It's at the North Oak United Methodist. Nope, that is not the name of that church. It's on North Oak Traffic Way, but the name of the church is Good Shepherd United Methodist Church. It's at 9555 North Oak Traffic Way. And it's a lovely space. We'll be in the big room that I believe they use as their gathering place, as their sanctuary. And again, you'll move from table to table, hearing about each topic that we will be presenting to you. So I'm going to shift here a little bit because I recognize that not everybody will be available that day. I can't imagine what you have that's better to do that day, but fine. If you can't make it that day, or if you live too far away, or whatever your reason is that you can't make it, we thought today we would give you a sneak peek of the dementia training room. So besides me kind of telling you how it works, I'm going to present on one of the topics. And let me tell you, when I figured out I had to present on one of the topics, I had to then decide which one will I do? Which one is going to have the most mass appeal? Which one can I do in 15 minutes? The answer is none. And I've already used 10 of my minutes, so let me get on it. But I want to answer Renee's question in the chat. Renee, that's a great question. There will be chairs. There is no, I mean, if you want to stand the whole time, you can, but no. There will be seating, and the seating is at round tables, so you won't have to try to jockey for a position. It's set up that you'll be able to hear the speaker and see the speaker, get up and walk away from the speaker if you if you want to, use the restroom, get a refreshment. It's very user-friendly. So thank you for asking that. And we, of course, want to make sure it's as accessible as possible for everyone. The building where we'll be is, one entry. You just come right on in the front door. I shouldn't have any accessibility problems, but if there's anything you anticipate that you might have questions on, you can do that like Renee did and ask in the chat, or feel free to send me a message or email me or whatever. Okay. With that said, I am going to switch over to the slides that I have. Did I say what the topic was? I don't think so. I just said, I had to think of one and pick one of the 20 that I thought would be most appealing. I think they're all great, which is why this was hard. But drum roll, the topic I'm going to present, that will also be presented, I think, by someone else at the training room on next Friday, is when the dementia is not Alzheimer's. And this is going to be a very broad-based, unfortunately, I can't tell you all the details of all the dementias. Those of you who have been around for a while or who have attended an education program know that there are more than 70 different kinds of dementias that neurologists and researchers and scientists have identified, Alzheimer's disease being the most common kind. So when we say that someone has dementia, 7 out of 10 times, we're probably saying they have dementia of the Alzheimer type. That being said, there are other kinds of dementias, and I'm going to give you an overview of those. That also being said, it is becoming increasingly more common to see what we call mixed dementia. People can have more than one kind. They can have Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's and vascular dementia, or frontotemporal dementia, or Lewy body dementia, or any 1, 2, or more of those things. So we feel like it's really important that people understand, for one, like I say in every talk I give, Alzheimer's is not a normal part of aging. Dementia is not a normal part of aging. You do not get any of these diagnoses simply because you're getting older. I'll add to that, everyone who has, got to make sure I don't get this backwards. Everyone who has Alzheimer's disease has dementia, has a change in the way their brain functions. Dementia comes from a Latin phrase, de mentis, which literally means out of the mind. It means the brain is not functioning the way we expect it to, because typically of a disease process. So everyone who has Alzheimer's has dementia, period. Everyone who has dementia does not have Alzheimer's disease. People can have one of those 70. Well, I didn't mention all 70, but people can have one of those, one or more of those. So that being said, listen, if I don't put these slides up on the screen, you're just going to get my flight of ideas for the next 15 minutes, and nobody wants that. So hang on, let me put my other PowerPoint up, and hopefully everybody can see that. So here, the first slide is, nope, not ready yet. There we go. First slide is the flyer for the dementia training room with all the information I gave you. A week from tomorrow, April 26th, 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock at the Good Shepherd United Methodist Church, 9555 North Oak Traffic Way. Sessions repeat every 15-ish minutes. You might think that if you come like at 9, 9:15, 10:15, if you come at the 15 or 30-minute mark, that the session will be starting right away. And that is the goal. The reality is that sometimes people talk longer than their session should be. So it's not always exactly on the 15-minute mark. Just show up. Show up, and something will be starting when you show up. And then you can go to the next one. And be flexible and be patient and be willing to learn. And I think you'll be happy about that. Again, you can attend as many as you like. You can see a list on there of some of the topics that we'll be including. I think this QR code probably works. So if you have a phone that you want to use right now to go to the registration page, you're welcome to do that. Although, again, you do not have to because you can just show up. Okay. And it's free. And we're very excited about it. So with that being said, let's talk about when dementia is not Alzheimer's disease. And some of this I might have said, some of this I might repeat, but I only repeat it because it's true. Okay. All right. So all of the dementias, and remember, dementia is de mentis, out of the mind, the brain not behaving the way we might expect it to. Because as we get older, we don't want our default to be, my brain is not working. Some of us might think, oh, too late for me. Sometimes I wonder about myself. But the true reality is dementia is not a normal part of aging. Okay. So when the brain is not behaving the way we expect it to, we might consider that means the person has a dementia diagnosis. No matter what kind of dementia there is, whether it's Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, vascular, Lewy body, any of the other ones that we have identified, no matter what happens, everybody that has a dementia diagnosis has changes or more transparently, damages associated with their cognition, so their thinking and their brain function, their language, their executive function, which is a fancy way of saying their decision making and their judgment and their, as my grandmother would probably say, good old common sense, which is not always all that common, and their physical abilities. Lots of us think about dementia and especially about Alzheimer's disease as being about forgetfulness or memory loss. And that is absolutely a hallmark of Alzheimer's disease and some of the other dementias. But it is so much more than just being forgetful. As you can see, we see changes in brain function, changes in language, etc. I saw a chat from someone. Thank you, Renee, for answering the chat for me. Renee has just been deputized as my chat helper. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so all dementias, no matter what kind they are, mean that we have changes in the way that the brain is functioning. What that means is that the person experiencing those changes or having that dementia becomes increasingly dependent on someone else for their care. Those of you who are family caregivers have realized that. And that may be why you're here and why you'll come to the dementia care, training room next week. It means that because they have changes in memory loss and changes in thinking and language and physical ability, that they need somebody else to help them with activities of daily living, like bathing, dressing, toileting, getting in and out of a chair, meal preparation and eating, all of those things that they might have taken for granted, that of course I can do all of that. But as I have a dementia diagnosis that is progressive, I need somebody else to help me with that. There are lots and lots of strategies for caregiving. If you haven't figured some of those out yet, do not worry, because we're here to help you with that. And that's part of what we will be telling you at next week's dementia training room. And then the final point on this side is that all dementias are terminal, which means they lead to end of life. We are not yet at the point where we can say that we have a treatment, a prevention, a cure, a magic wand even that says, if you have a dementia diagnosis, we'll do this thing and you won't have it anymore. We can't make it stop. We can't cure it. That is the ultimate goal, of course, at the Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, is that we will indeed be able to do any or all of those things. Keep the dementia from happening in the first place, find a way to treat it if it does happen, find a way to cure it if it does happen. Okay, so across the board, all dementias have that in common. And when I refer to the ADRC as the Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, please know that I mean really the Alzheimer's and other dementias Research Center, but that's not as easy to say. So ADRC, okay, and know that also we are considering and thinking about how to brand ourselves as a brain health institute, because instead of focusing on deficit, which we recognize happens with people, we want to focus on how can we keep your brain healthy in the first place. Okay, next slide is, so the previous slide talked about what the dementias all have in common, like memory loss and confusion, et cetera. This one talks about what's different about the dementias. So typically, duration, how long does it last? With Alzheimer's disease, we tend to see from time of diagnosis, which varies from person to person, depending on a lot of different factors. But average life expectancy from time of diagnosis is about 8 to 10 years. Everybody remembers from math class that average means some people have more, some people have less, and kind of right in the middle is an average. So just because I'm telling you that average is 8 to 10 years, there are people who might live longer than that. There are people who might not live that long because of other factors, including age at time of diagnosis and onset of symptoms, how soon we got on board with medication and treatment, and some other things. Just kind of in contrast, we can see that something like Lewy body dementia or frontotemporal dementia might not last as long and might be diagnosed earlier at a younger age. So duration looks different. Etiology of the disease, basically that's the research sciencey way of saying, how did this happen? Where did this come from? We don't know the single button that we have to push to say, this person has a dementia because this thing happened or didn't happen. That being said, we know that there are some risk factors for dementias. I keep hammering home that age is not the cause of dementia or Alzheimer's disease. It is, however, the single most important risk factor for Alzheimer's disease and is important in some of the other dementias. Age we cannot control, so we know age is involved and it's part of the etiology of the disease. Other etiologies might include gender. We know that women are more likely to have Alzheimer's to the tune of about 2 out of 3 people with Alzheimer's disease are female. We know that race and ethnicity play a role. We know that lifestyle plays a role. So diet, exercise, mental health, sleep, all of those things are connected to the etiology of the disease. We know that other diagnoses happening at the same time can be risk factors for many of the dementias, including diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, mental health issues. So any one or more of those things can have bearing on when and where and how somebody gets one of these diagnoses. How the disease moves in the brain matters. Frontotemporal dementia is a very good example of that. It's literally called frontal temporal dementia because it's in the front and temporal on the side lobes, just like my last name, spelled a little different, those parts of the brain. With frontotemporal dementia, we typically see maybe even more apparently than memory loss, we see things like aphasia. We see changes in speech and language ability. We see changes in behavior and judgment because the frontal and temporal lobes of the brain are the parts of the brain that help us make decisions. It's what's keeping you all nice and you're muted and you're not unmuting yourselves and saying, oh my goodness, you're the worst or anything terrible like that. You might be thinking it, but you're not saying it. So those where the disease lands, where the disease begins and moves throughout the brain changes based on what kind of dementia there is. The response to the currently available drugs varies. And that could be a whole other conversation. Suffice it to say that we treat different kinds of dementias with different kinds of intervention. And then finally, we know a heck of a lot about Alzheimer's disease. It would be nice to say we know a heck of a lot about all of the dementias, but that really depends. It depends on a lot of different factors, and we need to know more about all of the dementia. Okay, so we'll start with vascular dementia. And these are not, well, I was going to say these are not in any particular order, but vascular dementia is one of the more common kinds of dementias that is not Alzheimer's disease. So it's up on the screen. And vascular dementia is diagnosed when we see cognitive impairment that is caused by a set of vascular diseases. And vascular meaning, you know, our vein system, our arteries and our veins that carry information, blood throughout our body. When someone has a stroke or a TIA, and TIA stands for transient ischemic attack, You may also have heard it referred to as a mini stroke. I quibble with that a little bit because it's hard for me to think about a stroke being mini. A stroke seems like a big darn deal. But you may have also heard the language of a massive stroke. Again, what stroke isn't massive? And any cardiologists that are listening to me out there, forgive my lack of expertise on describing the difference between a mini stroke and a massive stroke. But the idea is that in our brains, we can have these TIAs or mini strokes that over time cause problems in the way that our brains function, and we have labeled that vascular dementia. Probably the most visual difference I could give you, except for I don't have a whiteboard. You'll see the third bullet here says a stair-step pattern in the decline. If we were going to draw a picture of the path that someone takes when they have Alzheimer's disease, we would see that it would be a long, gradual, slow path. So if you can see my hand on your screen, it would kind of look like my hand moving slowly downhill. Remember, I said 8 to 10 years from time of diagnosis. So it's a one-way path. The person is getting more dependent on someone else over time. They are less capable of taking care of themselves independently, and they're kind of on a downhill slide. But we're not seeing sudden changes overnight. You didn't go to bed the night before and wake up having forgotten everything. It's a slow, steady progress that takes years to develop. If we were going to draw that same pathway with vascular dementia, it would look more like stair steps. It would imagine someone walking down a staircase. So they'd walk for a little bit and then take a step down and stop. And then walk a little bit more and take another step down and stop. And every time there's a drop, every time there's a step down the stairs, we think maybe that stroke is happening, that mini or massive attack in the brain is happening and causing that cognitive decline and that change in brain function. What we see as a result of that is an inconsistent capacity in presentation. Sometimes a person with vascular dementia might be managing their day pretty well. And then the disease moves forward, they take a step down, and they are increasingly dependent on someone else for their care. And then you may remember from the slide before, we talked about the duration of the disease. With vascular dementia, we see a shorter life expectancy due to the risk of other atherosclerotic diseases, which is a $1 million word for what I think we used to call, but don't say very much anymore, hardening of the arteries. And if you think of vascular dementia as being connected to your blood vessels, your vasculature, if your arteries are not as efficient, that's going to put you at a higher risk of other cardiovascular diseases, other strokes, high blood pressure, etc. Okay, so I don't know if this is good or bad news, but it's 2:28, which means we have about 2 minutes left, and I've only talked about one of the dementias. Let me give you let me move quickly. There are treatments and interventions for vascular and all of the dementias. We don't have a cure yet. We don't have the magic wand to make it go away. When we treat any dementia, we want to control what the risk factors are that are known. We want to treat symptoms, in particular depression or low mood symptoms. Alzheimer's disease drugs can also be prescribed for vascular dementia. We want to watch for where the person seems to have less capacity and address that. And easy for me to say, harder for you as a caregiver to do. Don't be confused by inconsistencies. This person has a diagnosis of a dementia, and so that makes things harder for them to do. The other dementias that are included in this presentation are Lewy body dementia, which I know a lot of you have probably heard about because of Robin Williams. We've got some information about kind of what goes on with that. We've got frontotemporal dementia, which I've also talked about. And in the interest of our time, and because I can't see you, so I don't know what is happening, thank you again, Renee, for watching the chat. I stopped sharing. If anybody wants a copy of that presentation, you can get it in 2 ways. You can either come to the Dementia Training Room next Friday, and we will give you a hot off the presses copy of it, or you can email me at myalliance@kumc.edu, the My Alliance email that's in all your newsletters, and I will send it to you without you having to come get it. whichever one you pick is okay. I'll be happy to share it. We'll have it and 18 or so other presentations. You see why when the bell rings, some people might not be done talking, but we'll try to do our best to get as much information in next Friday. But if you want a copy of that presentation, I'm happy to send it. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions? Like, I know that some of you are thinking, she was going to talk about metformin today. Don't ask me any questions about metformin because I will not be able to answer them in an accurate way for you. I don't know when we'll reschedule that, but hopefully pretty soon. But if you have other questions about the training room or anything else, feel free. We have 0 seconds left, but I'm willing to stay on if you want to stay on. And thank you all for your understanding and your flexibility. So feel free to unmute or use the chat. And I was going to say to the person who just direct messaged me, yes, you can get the slides today and I need your address and I see it in the chat. Anybody else? Any other questions, things you would like to know about? Okay, I see another direct message, so I will answer that person. Great. Okay. Well, in that case, 2:31, that's not so bad. I did press record, so this will be online. I'm not going to tell you to be tomorrow. It might be tomorrow, but it'll be as soon as possible. Feel free to, like I said, email me if you want the slides from today. Join us next Friday. I will be there in person if you need that as another enticement. And so will a lot of the folks from KU-ADRC, our Cognitive Care Network folks will be there, our team of social workers. Michelle Needens, whose idea this was, will be there, so you can meet her. Don't tell her I said she got an award. She'll probably be very mad at me, but she totally deserves it. So very good. And I think that's it for now. I mean, I can always think of something else to say, but I suppose I can officially let you all go. Wow, that time did fly. Next week, we are scheduled to have a presenter on smell, SMELL, like smelling, and brain health. As far as I know, we're all set, but that's what I thought last week. So we'll see. No, I understand. I understand life happens. Things change, and that's why I have to be ready. But anyway, smell and brain health, a study called Aroma is our topic for next week. So feel free to join us for that. Those of you who were on the last week's webinar, either in person or virtual, thank you so much. That went off really well. We're very pleased with it. The recording is now available online, so check that out. And someone in the chat just asked me if is vascular dementia an AD, which I'm interpreting to mean is vascular dementia a version of Alzheimer's disease. If that's not what you mean, feel free to tell me something different. But vascular dementia is one of the different kinds of dementia. It has some similarities to Alzheimer's disease, like change in brain function, but has a different, can look different in terms of how it presents. And I can, if you want the slides, you'll see much more information about that. Okay.
Kelly, would you give us the date of the training room and then your email address, please?
Yes, the training room is next Friday, April 26th. It's from 9 to 3. You can come anytime between 9 and 3. And my address is you can email me at alliance, ALLIANCE, at kumc.edu. If you have the My Alliance newsletter, you can just reply to that.
Okay.
And that's how you get the information. Thank you. I'm staying on. I mean, I'm happy to answer questions, but some of you are putting your email addresses in the chat, so I don't want to close this before I can write them down. So feel free to leave if you want, but if you have questions, feel free also to ask me at the risk of me just keeping on talking and answering your questions. But I want to make sure I get everybody's email. This is why we usually have 2 people from the ADRC on the Zoom to capture all this information. So forgive me for doing double duty, triple duty for you all today.
We appreciate all your efforts. You're always charming. I always love being in the room with you. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Amy. That was really kind of you. Okay. I don't know why whoever designed us didn't see fit to give us like 3 arms and the ability to write with 2 hands. But I'm doing my best, and I appreciate your patience, everybody. Okay. I think when I post this online, I'm going to delete this part because nobody wants to see me rambling on to myself. Okay. Yes, everybody who asked for the slides, I've got your email. If I knew a way to put it in the newsletter, I would, but it just is not set up for that. So I will email these to you. And I think I have everybody. And I will officially stop us here in just a moment as soon as I make sure one more time that I got everybody's information. I did not. Nope, one more. Okay. All right, everybody. I could stop recording and then I don't have to worry about this. Stop. Yes, I'm sure.